Hello and welcome to Last Week in AWS. I'm Corey Quinn. Let's see what AWS has for us last week.
This episode is sponsored in part by my day job, the Duckbill Group. Do you have a horrifying AWS bill? That can mean a lot of things. Predicting what it's going to be, determining what it should be, negotiating your next long-term contract with AWS, or just figuring out why it increasingly resembles a phone number, but nobody seems to quite know why that is. To learn more, visit duckbillgroup.com. Remember, you can't duck the duckbill bill. And my CEO informs me that is absolutely not our slogan.
Amazon EFS is now available in the AWS Mexico region, and this is annoying. They made a whole hoopla a few weeks ago about the region coming online, and now they're trickling out very basic foundational services to them. Either a region is ready or not, but this go ahead and try to deploy your app here and see if it works is a terrible customer experience. Amazon EKS and Amazon EKS Distro now supports Kubernetes version 1.32. That means that as of November 26th, version 1.31 will enter extended support. In case you don't know what that is, listen very carefully. You can almost hear the EKS product owner reflexively making cash register sounds with their mouth. Amazon S3 metadata is now generally available. Now, generally available means different things to different service teams and different companies even. When the S3 team tells me that something's generally available, I wouldn't hesitate to trust it with critical workloads. They're just that good and diligent, and they've earned the trust. Amazon TimeStream for InfluxDB now supports storage scaling. I have no idea if you can scale it down or not, since as of this recording, their documentation has no idea what you're talking about when you say storage scaling. That's going to be critical because otherwise it's just a sparkling unbounded growth problem. AWS Elastic Beanstalk now supports Python 3.13 on Amazon Linux 2023. Ooh, Elastic Beanstalk still shows signs of life. I was wondering. AWS Health now supports Internet Protocol version 6, or IPv6 as the children call it. It took them this long to slap a dual-stack CloudFront distribution, or ALB, in front of the health endpoints? Really? Announcing AWS Managed Notifications in the AWS Console mobile app. What's the under on how long it'll be until they start using these notifications to send us ads? Announcing new AWS Wavelength Zone in Casablanca. Of all the AWS podcasts, of all the snarky communications channels in all the world, this wavelength announcement had to walk into mine. AWS now supports zone groups for availability zones. You can now find the zone group for availability zones for all regions in the Describe Availability Zones API. For example, the availability zones in the US West Oregon region make up the US West 2 ZG1 zone group name, where US West 2 indicates the region and ZG1 indicates it is the group of AZs in the region. This new identifier, such as US West 2 ZG1, has replaced the previous naming, such as US West 2. I feel very, very stupid because I've read this carefully 6 times now and still have no idea what the hell it's trying to say.
Here at the Duckbill Group, one of the things we do with, my day job is we help negotiate AWS contracts. We just recently crossed $5 billion of contract value negotiated. It solves for fun problems, such as how do you know that your contract that you have with AWS is the best deal you can get? How do you know you're not leaving money on the table? How do you know that you're not doing what I do on this podcast and on Twitter constantly and sticking your foot in your mouth? To learn more, come chat at duckbillgroup.com. Optionally, I will also do podcast voice when we talk about it. Again, that's duckbillgroup.com.
Announcing the AWS CDK Glue L2 construct. It's always a delicate balance to figure out where to put things like CDK constructs in terms of raising awareness. The changelog isn't broad enough, whereas I really think you're going to have to be amazingly persuasive to convince Matt Garman to make it a tentpole of his reInvent keynote. This blog post strikes a nice balance. Deploy DeepSeek R1 distilled llama models in Amazon Bedrock. I'm not too proud to admit when I'm wrong. AWS is taking a multi-model approach instead of going all in on their own models, left them perfectly positioned to capitalize on DeepSeek freaking the entire tech industry out. This serves as a perfect illustration that from time to time, I miss the mark completely, and thus you should exercise good judgment when listening to me. I'm just one voice, albeit a loud one. Announcing upcoming changes to the AWS Security Token Service Global Endpoint. You either do not give the slightest toss about this enhancement, or else you care profoundly about this. There is nobody in between those two endpoints. Congratulations on this release meeting your needs, or I'm sorry I wasted your time including this in the podcast, depending upon which of those two you are personally. Design patterns for multi-tenant access control on Amazon S3. The 3 design patterns they list misses the 4th and surprisingly popular pattern, which is accidental, as in, oh crap, we screwed up the permissions. And finally, I was poking around on the Amazon's website and I noticed that there's now a banner on top of their Nimble Studio page saying that it's closed for new customers. Toss it onto the deprecation list. Sneaky, sneaky. And that's what happened last week in AWS. I'm cloud economist Corey Quinn. Please stick around.